Speaking of quarterbacks, we like to check in with David Morse, the founder of QB Country. You can find David and his outstanding company at qbcountry.com. And David, first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Travis. How are you?
I am great. And obviously, we want to start with that quarterback position, starting in the Southeastern Conference. And, we talked about this back in the preseason, David. Really felt like it was going to be a year in which the league would make a jump at that spot. Yep. Here we are 8 weeks into it. Kind of give me a summation or an evaluation, at least to this point, of what you think about the quarterback position in the SEC based on what we've seen.
Yeah. I mean, I think, beginning of the year, we knew it was going to be a young crop. You lose a lot of guys last year, some vets, and so this year, really a bunch of sophomores and a couple freshmen. So, I don't think you would expect it to be the best quarterback conference in the country right now necessarily, and I don't think that you would project that early on. But although talent is there, I think losing Shea Patterson is tough on from a quarterback standpoint. If you're talking about the SEC, obviously, right. They're putting up a lot of numbers. Obviously you hate that for the kid, but you look at Jake Bentley. He's playing good. He's a young guy. He's a true sophomore. You got obviously Jake Fromm. They're undefeated down there. And Jake's a true freshman. I think obviously you look at Jalen's playing winning football. He's not with what they're doing in the run game, including himself. I mean, I think he's not going to put up the numbers that would say, wow, they're ripping people apart throwing the ball, but I think he's capable of it. So, I would say, Nick Fitzgerald is the kind of the vet of the bunch, and he's playing pretty good. I don't think he's the best passer in the world. I think he's at 57% on the year. But in general, I think you got a young group, and then you got Stidham trying to catch stride down at Auburn. So I'd say it's young, but it's very talented.
So basically about what maybe you would have expected going into the season, with the potential for guys to really step forward, I guess, here in the determining month, which is always November.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, really more than anything, it's what you would think is, wow, we got a bright future at quarterback in the SEC. But I mean, very, very talented. I think you can expect. I expected Stidham to have some growing pains. It's a new offense. It's a new system. It's a new school. A lot of pressure. Same thing. Let's say down at Georgia, whether it's Eason or Jake Fromm. So I mean, I think both those guys are still young, so you don't expect them to play perfect. Jalen Hurts is a true sophomore. Fitzgerald's a guy with a lot of experience. But then you got the Tennessee situation, and there's been injuries at Arkansas. I just think that the best is in the future. Florida's still kind of trying to figure it out, but I'd say to sum it up, I would say that the future is bright in the SEC at quarterback, and right now I think you're seeing spurts, or you're seeing small glimpses of some really talented guys.
3 years into Jim McElwain at Florida, they still really haven't figured out the quarterback situation. That said, David, the loss of Will Grier, and now at West Virginia, can you kind of put into words how far that can set back a program when it looked like Will Grier was going to be an SEC caliber winning type quarterback for the Gators for multiple years? It looked like they had the table kind of set, and then to lose him, what does that do to an offense and program wide, even with Florida now?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it does a lot. When you lose a guy, it's just hard to find a guy that can lead, that is really talented, that can make guys around him play up, that's very confident. Trying to find that guy is really hard, and that's pretty well documented across football in general. But, I mean, I think when you look at Florida, I just think that, obviously Franks is a young guy. I think he's a redshirt freshman. So, I mean, he's young. I think them losing, the kid 2 weeks ago got hurt.
Luke Del Rio.
Del Rio,
Luke
yeah,
Del
the
Rio.
former Bama kid, yeah. And honestly, I think losing Del Rio hurts even more because I think Del Rio was the guy that they knew that he wasn't gonna lose the game for him, and I think they thought that he could. He's a good leader. He's pretty much been around forever, knows the system. I think he was kind of their steadiness if they needed it. And to lose him, I think, is big. But, yeah, I mean, to lose a talented guy like Grier, it really just sets you back. There's no question about it. Obviously, Del Rio, the knock on him would be just pure, let's say, raw talent. The knock on Franks is, can he think fast? Can he be accurate? Can he play confident? And then can he be consistent from week to week? So, I mean, it's a tough situation, no question about it.
In the 2017 recruiting cycle, David, Alabama had Jake Fromm committed at one time and ended up signing Tua Tagovailoa to go along with Mac Jones. Specifically looking at Fromm and Tagovailoa right now, just talk about what you've seen from both of those guys. I mean, Fromm obviously playing at a really high level for a true freshman. And then when you look at Tua, he's the backup at Alabama, but how many places would this guy be the top guy, even as a true freshman?
Yeah, no question. I think you're right. I mean, I think Tua is, it's interesting. Think about both their situations this time last year. Obviously, Jake had kind of decommitted and then committed to Georgia. But think about Tua. So he commits to Georgia, knowing Easton started as a true freshman. Similarly, Tua commits to Bama after Jake decommits, but he knows Hurts is the guy. So, it takes some confidence to even have that conversation, or even say, "Hey, Dad, I think this is where I want to go," and then Dad say, "Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, let's do it," and not sit down and say, "Well, wait a second here." Obviously, it's worked out well for Jake, but Jake would have told you, it would probably take a couple bad games in a row or an injury, you can't predict it. And I had conversations with Mr. Fromm prior to just saying, man, I just wonder how long we're going to have to wait on this deal. So you never know. But I mean, as far as talent, they're totally different. But the one thing they have in common is they're fierce competitors and they're very mature. And so, obviously I saw some of Tua's stuff. I was out of town. I was at Penn State, Michigan, so I didn't get to see tons of it. But I saw, and I know Tua threw a pick down there on the goal line. It is what it is. They're young. They're going to make mistakes. The thing you got to love about Tua is he just looks so calm and comfortable in there. I just think he looks like he's not out of his league at all. And if they needed him to win games, he could do it. Now there's going to be mistakes. Now the thing I love about Jake is, he's not turning the ball over. He knows how to win. I mean, now look at that Georgia game as from a first start standpoint. They didn't ask him to do a ton. Notre Dame. I mean, to get out of there, first start for true freshmen, and now they'll be rolling like they are. I mean, Jake Fromm is beyond his years when it comes to confidence and when it comes to the intangible things. Obviously, part of that, understand the playbook. So. Yeah, those are two guys that, like I said, the future's bright.
How do you deal with this situation, David Morris? You're the head coach at Alabama. You got Jalen Hurts. You got Tua Tagovailoa. Jalen has obviously done everything he needs to do to be the starting quarterback at Alabama. But if this is Tua Tagovailoa that we see in games that you see and you see that on a daily basis in practice, what's the thought process for an offensive staff, knowing that you've got two guys like this, understanding that big picture wise, it may not be all that realistic to think you can sustain that situation? How do you handle it, David?
I think you don't do anything, until you have to. So There's not any issues over there, and don't create one. I mean, I think obviously it's pretty obvious that they're trying to get to a lot of playing time. Obviously, they burned the red shirt. So, I think he was in there early in the third quarter. So, I mean, I think that it's obvious that they're getting him his time. Now, what you got is you got two guys that can play. and you got a great situation. Now, I wouldn't do anything unless it just, a game starts going out of control, or back-to-back games. But I mean, they're not gonna. I wouldn't say. I don't think they got a short leash on Jalen. I think they know what he is and they like it. And so I think in the off season it may be interesting because what happens. So let's say they win it. Jalen's doing his thing and continuing to produce and play well. The off season is going to be interesting because where is to his head, and that's that's when I think you could see more of it, unless there's just a game where Jalen is out of sorts. But I mean, I don't know that there's going to be one. They're going to be tested.
Right.
They're going to have to throw it against Auburn, obviously in the championship game, whoever that is, probably Georgia. They're going to say, hey, you beat us. But I mean, there's a lot of people that said that and they still shove it down your throat.
David, I look at Alabama, and you tell me if you agree with this or not. I don't think there's going to be a game, though, where they have to throw for more than 300. Instead, it's going to come down to, 2, 3, 4 throws they're going to have to hit. Do you kind of see this offense that way?
I think you're exactly right.
How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that's it. Tua's still, Jalen's missed a couple deep balls. I think that he missed one on Saturday that I saw that was there was a penalty, and so they ended up hiking upfield. But I mean, he's got to hit those deep ball shots. He can't overthrow them. Those are plays that, in an SEC championship or in a title game or the playoff, those are type throws that win or lose you the game and make or break your season. So I just think he has to be consistent with that. But I would say that you're right. And it kind of comes back to your point. You got to hit those. You can't miss the deep post that's wide open. You can't miss the deep go that's wide open. There's just so many times you miss it before you say, you start really losing confidence in that type throw. So I think you're right. I think that ultimately, they're not going to change what they're doing. I mean,